got some time for questions, and I'm sorry, I probably went slightly over, so yes, ma'am. Could you identify who you are?
Thank you very much. Hi, I'm Dia Chakravorty. I work for The Telegraph. Minister, that talk was every bit as fascinating as I was expecting it to be, so thank you very much, and thank you for conducting it. I was interested to read in your wonderful book, you say China had been winning without fighting while the US was fighting without winning in the lead up to the 2016 events of Trump winning and Brexit and all that. I agree with you that the US had been fighting but not winning, but I was surprised to hear you say that China hadn't been fighting. I mean, it had been fighting pretty openly. My limited knowledge at the border with India, was within the WTO rules, but flouting them quite openly, I think, be it about causing disruption in its own region by funding North Korean conflicts. What did you mean by that?
One of the problems writing a book, it comes back to haunt you in different ways. I made this observation, if I remember right, in a very specific context, which is that the American military involvement in Afghanistan, and even more so in Iraq, has been hugely damaging to the United States strategically, and it's actually eroded their capacity as the premier power. So when I spoke about them fighting without winning, this whole concept of what they call forever wars, that you go in, you get stuck, you go in, you double down, you take over more responsibility, and then you get sucked in. That has in many ways been, from 2001, especially for the next 20 years, that has been very much a problem with which the United States has struggled with. Whereas in this very period, if you look, the Chinese actually did not have this kind of military commitment. And in fact, if one looks at the 2 decades after 9/11, there is clearly some correlation between the changed fortunes of the two countries and what the U.S. focus on the Afghanistan-Iraq conflicts did was it actually in a way preoccupied the U.S. and opened up many other parts of the world in a manner in which perhaps America regrets today. So that was my thought, that in a global way, America took its eyes off the ball.
Yeah. Yes.
Uday Kemka of the Sun Group, the Kemka Foundation. Minister, thank you very much for your very thoughtful comments, and also congratulations on everything the government's achieved, and the recent G20 has been extraordinary. My question picks up on the comment and the discussion you were having on climate change. You talked about being hyperactive. And it seems to me that broader, more than the commercial relationships that may underpin our foreign policy, could it be that handling what may be the greatest generational challenge of our times could bring us closer to our allies and also increase our economic development in terms of trade, investment, innovation, in ways that are much more specific than general free trade agreements? So, small illustration.
Okay, no.
Sorry, that's good enough.
No, that's all. You just got edited.
Yeah,
please.
So why don't I take 2, 3
yes,
questions
exactly.
and just make it easier?
Next one. Oh, at the back, sorry. Yes. Hello.
Minister, Alec Russell from the FTX, one of Lionel's journalists. Most economists seem to think that in 5-10 years' time there will be 3 economic superpowers. There will be China, America, and India. But when it comes to government of the global economy, India, it's not in the Security Council. It doesn't have a massive influence over the big multilateral bodies. How are you going to make up for that? How do you see India getting what I think a lot of people would reckon is its sort of rightful position in one of those bodies, or another one?
Right. I'll take one more, may I?
Yeah, one. Yeah, yes, sir. At the back, yeah. Yeah.
James Crabtree, another former barber worker. There have been recently some signs that India has been forging closer economic ties with Taiwan. There was reporting earlier this week that there would be a deal in which Indian workers would move to Taiwan. There's greater cooperation in areas like semiconductors. I wonder if you could say a little bit more about the future trajectory of relations between India and Taiwan, and in the event of a Chinese economic blockade of Taiwan, what would India's reaction be?
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood the first question. The first question was really, is an FTA, is a focused economic engagement a better way of handling problems? Is that what the question was?
Climate change could be better.
Create industrial corridors.
Yeah.
Because we have industrial policy in the US
Yes,
and India,
yes.
for example. Could we be much more coordinated? Industry, commerce, innovation, renewable energy.
Right.
And better than the FTAs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because today Europe is grappling with concerns about fossil fuel dependency and vulnerability. Perhaps there isn't today enough concern about the world when it comes to dependency and vulnerabilities, when it comes to renewables. So more than what you are suggesting, my concern would be about over-concentrations. That we are looking at a global economy where in very critical areas there are concentrations, and those concentrations in different ways could be leveraged or could simply not be available in a crisis. I actually feel, especially because the climate events, one is the technologies you need to respond to climate challenges, but the other is the disruption which climate events will have on normal commerce in the world. And both actually warrant, to my mind, a kind of a re-globalization, where the current economic concentrations are democratized, they are spread out more, so that you have many more production centers in the world, and I think that would make, frankly, for a much safer global economy. On that question, yes, you put your finger on it. I think we have a real challenge today that by not being in the Security Council, there is a lot in terms of global decision making that we have to find other ways of influencing and compensating for. There's no quick fix. I mean, I think we have to find ways of reforming the UN and other international bodies. My belief is that countries, those who are currently benefiting, will fight those changes, will resist those changes. It's in the nature of things. But the pressure to change will grow with the passage of time. We can already see that happening. It could happen in the UN, it could happen in the WTO, it could happen in other international organizations as well. And the Taiwan question, we have substantial technology and economic and commercial relations with Taiwan. And certainly, Taiwan has a reputation when it comes to electronics and, of course, more recently with semiconductors. So there has been an upswing in the levels of cooperation. As to a hypothetical scenario that you raised, I don't do hypotheticals.
Good. We've got time for one last question. Actually, the lady there, yeah, the back. All right, take two, but make it quick. We've got 3 minutes. One.
Thank you. I'm the High Commissioner of Bangladesh to the UK. And let me just pay a tribute to you, sir, because you're the first Indian Foreign Secretary who's become the Indian Foreign Minister. And quite an iconoclast diplomat in the South Asian perspective. Every South Asian diplomat wants to follow your career path. And that way. So my question was regarding Bangladesh-India relations. And as you know, quite often I see that there's a lack of understanding on India-Bangladesh relations in the West, and particularly here in the UK. And as you know, last 2nd November, Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina inaugurated the international India-Bangladesh railway links in Agartala-Akara. I wanted to ask you that, how important or integral Bangladesh is in India's foreign policy, particularly in pursuing its security, regional connectivity, shared prosperity, and in the Pacific.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you. One more minute, yeah, please.
Okay. I thought there was one more.
Oh, please. Okay, fine, because we've got to have some room for socialising.
All right. I think I used the word that we have tried to restructure the neighborhood. Now, obviously, it's not something unilateral by us. We have done it with the neighbors. And again, one of the big changes of the last decade, let's take Bangladesh. We have settled our land boundary with Bangladesh, which is really a very big deal. We had differences on our maritime boundary. We went for arbitration. We agreed that whatever was the arbitral award, we would both follow it, which we did when the arbitral award came, and a lot of it was not in our favor. So at the very least, it's a very good example to some other regions and countries who will remain unnamed. On the structural side today, in the last 10 years, we've had, the High Commissioner is referring to 2 rail lines between India and Bangladesh which were inaugurated, a power plant which was inaugurated. Today we are using Bangladeshi ports for our northeast. They are benefiting by more traffic coming through the ports. When our energy supplies on scale, because we import fuel, we refine it, Bangladesh gets benefited because there's a pipeline which supplies to them. So actually today India-Bangladesh relations stand out in the Indian subcontinent as a model relationship in terms of benefits of regional cooperation.
UK-India trade deal before Mr. Sunak calls an election?
A lot of it is up to Mr. Sunak, isn't it?
That's all we wanted to hear. May I say that it's been a great honour and a privilege to engage in conversation with you, Minister. We did actually, I didn't say this, we did actually have an hour or more together when you were ambassador in Beijing. You kindly saw me and the Beijing Bureau Chief, Jamil Andolini, and I did make a note at the time. I wonder if I'll ever have another fascinating conversation like we had that day. I won't disclose it because it was off the record, but it was very, very interesting. So please join me in thanking the External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar.
I'm Gita Stewart. I'm the chair of Wilton Park, and I just wanted to thank Minister Dr. Jaishankar for making this dialogue possible, and thank you to Lionel Barber for raising a number of questions which I think would lend themselves to at least 5 Wilton Park dialogues I could think of. And as you can see, the Wilton Park has a sort of 75 years history of organising global dialogue, but the one thing I take away from today is that the centrality of the question of how we relate to China and how our future relationship to China and also in relation to Russia will affect both continental Europe and us and countries like India. And this is the beginning of, I think, very extensive conversation where openness, being aware of realities, not being too nostalgic, but being quite hard-nosed about how the world is and how you would like it to be, is going to be quite central. So I thank you very much. I thank also for making this possible. And, it was good to meet you.